Good morning, y'all. Okay, I'm probably gonna be nervous for like the first 4.5 minutes, so bear with me. And I mean 4.5 minutes exact, so y'all time me, all right? Okay, what's up? I'm Whitney. Um, yeah, I make clothes and get to do some fun stuff, so let's get into it. All right. Okay. A little hey y'all. I am Kansas City born and raised through and through. I did spend a little time in Phoenix, Arizona, so I lived there during my high school years, and came back home. But I started sewing at the age of 13 through deconstruction. As y'all can tell, I am tall. And I was waking up every morning like a quarter inch taller, much to my parents, like they were very annoyed by that. But it's nothing I can do, you know. So I was going through clothes real quick. And I really started sewing because I just didn't want my cousins to keep getting my clothes. So my thought process was, if I learn how to sew, I can figure out how to turn the stuff that I still loved and that still had wear in it, turn it into something else. So remixing. Um, Now, nobody in my family sews, and my mom told me, like, when she was in high school and did home ec, she sewed a shirt backwards. My grandma still wore it because she loved her. And so I felt like, okay, cool, this is my thing that I can figure out how to do, because I always knew I wanted to be an artist. It just was kind of like, what type of artist? Um, and yeah, just like some things that I love, bright colors, being overdressed, Beyonce, Twizzlers, my pup girl Yaya, mac and cheese, Target, roller skating. So yeah, that's kind of how I spend my time outside a studio. And again, just a few other quick facts. So I graduated from Kansas City Art Institute in 2012. I have been a professional artist, technically in the eyes of the IRS. Don't, you know, hey. Um, since 2014, but for real, I've been a full-time artist since the day I came in this world. I've been full time as a studio artist since 2020. Now, technically, I've always been a full time studio artist. Y'all will learn. You still got to make money until that art starts selling. So when I graduated from school, I worked at a dance studio. I do not dance. Do not ask me. I was the office manager, but I would work part time jobs where I could work in the afternoons and evenings, and then on Saturdays. So I would spend my days in studio from like 9 to 3, go to work at 4 o'clock, get off at like 9 o'clock, do it again. And so I was still clocking like at least 30 hours a week at studio, but it was important for me to like keep building, and still working because fabric is not cheap. Um, but this is my artist statement. You know, we went through a little bit of it, but that's the stuff that they force you to do when you get to art school. So yeah, I haven't updated it in a while, but I probably should. Um, but I'm and it's a whole bunch of slides, but like the images are so cool, and it's been a minute since I've reviewed a lot of my work. So KCAI was a very unique program. So I do not have a fashion degree. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Fibers, and whenever somebody asks, "Do I have a BFA?" I say yes because I am still paying Sally Mae for it. So I'm going to say BFA every single time. Um, but because it was a fibers program and not a fashion program, there's a lot of things that I did not learn. Um, but there's a lot of things that I did learn. Whereas, like a lot of the business of fashion, like how to do tech packs and CAD drawings and stuff like that, I did not learn in my program because it's not a fashion program. But there's a lot of stuff that I did learn at KCAI that I would not have in a traditional fashion program. So it kind of evened out. This is one of those things where you kind of have to understand you're not going to learn everything you need to know about your career in school. Otherwise, you'd never graduate. I would still be there. And that's not cute. Like, I would be a super senior. And you have to kind of figure out where to fill in that education that you're not getting in school. So I did. And when I tell you, the head of my department, bless her soul, Pauline, shout out to her. I was hard-headed, but like in a good way. So nobody really was gonna tell me what I was gonna do. You kind of need a smidge of that, just because, especially within art is so subjective and it's hard and it's weird. And you're like, why did I get a C on this project when it's like something I made up out of my head? Like, how are you grading this? You're not in my brain. But it's kind of weird to kind of like juggle. I got to get a good grade. I got to keep my scholarship, but I also have to stay true to my voice and my vision and my intention behind my work. So there's a balance there. You got to find it. Can't tell you necessarily how, but I definitely survived art school. I'm very proud of that. And also just like take advantage of being a student. I would email store owners, designers in New York, Chicago, LA, everywhere, and I would just like use that student email to your advantage. I would just be like, hey, I'm Whitney, I'm a student at so-and-so, whatever. Can I ask you a few questions? Do you have time for a quick call? And that's how you kind of build a network of mentors, which is really helpful to me, and some of those artists I still talk to this day. I will say it wasn't until the summer before my senior year, I was able to do a study trip. So we had a school study trip to New York City. So we stayed in the dorms at FIT, and we had studio space in Brooklyn. And I did not have a sewing machine or fabric to my use. So like on the right hand, I was just working with paper and creating stencils. That was the trip where everything made sense. I was struggling so hard up until then. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, but I didn't have a good way to articulate it, and it was just something about that trip where everything just kind of clicked. And so when I came back home, I did my first WM collection, Writings on the Wall, and I was literally spray painting on fabric. Don't do that. I mean, you can until you can, get an airbrush and do all the right things. But yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know. I knew I had something to get out, but it was also nice to not wait for permission. So I went through the whole process of like finding sponsors for the show and organizing it myself. And that was not even my senior thesis show. So, but I just knew I had something that I wanted to do. And a really big part of my work, I always say, like, especially when I'm on live or anything like that, like the wonderful world of Whitney Manney, like I want to create a wearable culture. Like I want to create a world where people are invited into. Whenever you say you're a fashion designer, the first initial thought is that it's incredibly frivolous. It's just girly, fun, frilly. Oh my gosh, it's so glam. It is not glam. It is really, really hard. And there's a lot of narrative and perspective into it. To me, I feel like I do the same amount of work as any other fine artist. It's just that you can wear, wash, and repeat my work. It's not hanging up on a gallery wall. So this was like one of my first collections right after I graduated. And I love doing photo shoots. Now, photo shoots are very glam. Those are very fun. I remember I made that headpiece with like 4 packs of braid hair and a Tupperware bowl. That was my mama's Tupperware bowl. Don't tell her. She's probably still looking for it to this day. But, just kind of just always being resourceful. And literally my career is built out of doing the best with what I have and literally making things out of scraps. I moved into... I guess I didn't talk about textile design. Okay, yeah, textile design is a huge part of my work. It is my work. That is how I do my storytelling. So this was from 2013, Kansas City Fashion Week. I won a grant from Arts KC to kind of get into the world of digital textile printing. I was doing digital textile designs. I learned that process while I was in school, but it's super expensive. Like, honestly, a yard of denim is like $32 a yard. You got to think like one look easily uses about 2.5 to 3 yards of fabric. So yeah, I'll let y'all do the math. But really kind of getting into that idea, because the cool thing about fashion is that I can create this big collection and I can replicate it. But when I was only doing like hand dyed and airbrush fabrics, I can't remember what I did at 2:30 in the morning the next day. You know, I don't even know if I know how to spell my middle name at that point. So it was nice to be able to create these patterns, essentially like paintings in a way, and be able to replicate them, but also still have space for one-of-ones as well. And then I started to move into a WM Presents format. This allowed me to kind of show off my showmanship a little bit, because I kind of got annoyed. Like, a runway show is over within like 10 minutes, and it's like, man, I spent 8 months of my life, 8 long months, tears, lots of blood, lots of sadness, lots of happiness, lots of surprises, but then it's over. What now? And so I kind of figured, like, okay, let's start doing some fashion gallery shows, some presentations. So my first one, I think that was my first one, was with the UMKC Gallery of Art. So I took over the whole space. And this is where that like KCAI kind of part came in, to where I was building installations, creating a world for the clothing to live in. So we would have open at night with the models. And then after that, I would install the clothing in the space. And so the exhibitions would run for like 2 to 3 weeks. I did it again in 2015 with the Box Gallery downtown. This is one of my favorite designs, this jacket. So y'all see them zippers on there? Okay, I don't know what I was on when I was coming up with this. And I look back at my work a lot too back then. There's like a little bit of fearlessness, a little bit of audacity back then that I had. So everywhere you see a zipper, that part of the jacket zips off, so you can modify the jacket as you're wearing it. So I made them in 3 different patterns, and so you could mix and match the pieces of the jacket. Yeah, and so that was a fun time. But also still, this was mostly digital print, but still kind of keeping those hand processes as well. So like part of her top is hand painted on the gray kind of dress jacket situation, that's hand painted. But kind of seeing where I can mix and match and take those inspirations. This was the Archimodis collection, so this was really my themes were utility and modification. And I was really inspired by the stories of female World War II workers, and the stories of African American architects who didn't get credit for a lot of the major work that they did, and just the idea of building. So the Box Gallery is really cool because it's pretty much completely glass, so you can see around all 4 sides. So for some reason, I was feeling very ambitious when I was planning this exhibition. This was a weaving I did on the wall. It's like, I think it was 20 by 12. And so people that were in the building, in the foyer, they could watch me weave the whole time. Very dangerous work. I was on a ladder, and I don't like being on ladders. I'm really not sure why I decided to do that, but it came together really, really cool. So there was this aspect of, in a weird way, kind of like performance art, visual, and then open at night. Of course, we had the models. But it's been a really cool time. A lot of people are always like, why have you not left Kansas City? Why are you not in LA yet? Why are you not in New York? But honestly, because I like to eat every day, and I don't want to worry, and I have a house, and I got a dog, and I have a studio space, and that's really, really cool. Also, I think if I had moved to a major city, I would not have developed my artist language the way that I've been able to quite yet. And I think I would have been focused on trying to survive so hard that I wouldn't have the type of work that I have right now. That's just me, though. I don't know. I get stressed out easy, so I just kind of knew it wasn't necessarily for me. But at the same time, I will say I don't refer to myself as a local artist. I'm a Kansas City-based artist, and that's a mindset difference. I'm based here, but I'm not local. that might hit y'all a little later in life. I'm gonna let y'all think about that. But yeah. So other than that, I do like to kind of see where my work can fit into different spaces. So I like to challenge myself to do different type of projects, whether that's me just doing the textile design, moving into jewelry. I really love designing accessories as well because I think it gets people really comfortable with color and pattern. It's a smaller piece. For people who is not like ready to just be complete rainbow brights all the time like me, but also just designing for as diverse of an audience as possible because that's incredibly important to me as well, and still keeping that air of sustainability. Denim is still one of my favorite fabrics to work with, and that, like I said, goes back to me deconstructing my jeans when I was a kid and turning it into stuff. So I still kind of like to have a nod to that in my work as well. Also, it's really interesting to be a fashion designer because sometimes we're not respected in the fine art circles because technically fashion is a commercial art, it's an applied art. So I think the thing that of course sets me apart from a lot of my fashion peers in the city is that I design my textiles, so that does allow me to kind of cross over into those circles. You just kind of got to bully people a little bit nicely, not in a mean way. Like and when I say that, like force them to understand your work and not like really take no for an answer. So I've been able to do to show up in like fine arts shows that are kind of more geared to traditional artists because of this, and kind of proving myself. It takes a lot though. Sometimes you get a little tired of doing it, but oh well, my whole philosophy is like get in where you fit in and everywhere in between, because if I feel like my work deserves to be somewhere, I'm gonna make sure that it's showing up and showing out. So yeah, just a few things that I've been able to do over the last few years that has just kind of helped me establish my career a little bit better. When 2020 happened, honestly, it scared the mess out of me because so much of my art practice depended on in person. So when that was taken away, it was just kind of like, okay, this is all over. I'm not sure how we're going to pivot. But the pivot happened because regardless of, I would say prior to that, like I said, I was dependent on in person. I was building my online presence and like making sure my website and stuff was good. But like getting online orders wasn't like my, I wouldn't say not my priority, but it wasn't the main source. So like I was doing pop-up shops consistently. I was always at an art fair, and it was kind of like, in a weird way, it was like I was setting the table and nobody was showing up online. But when 2020 happened, it was just like automatic. Everybody just kind of knew to go to where I was at. And I had a chance. I won a grant from Joanne Fabrics and Crafts in 2020. I would say that was one of the biggest like pivot points for me, and kind of when everything just kind of took off. So yeah, I've done a lot of fun things. We'll talk a little bit more about those too. So yeah, I've been able to do a lot of content creation work for brands like Joanne and Velcro, and those are really fun because they're paying me to experiment, which is really nice. I get a design brief and I get some simple rules, and they give me a budget, and I can use their money to kind of make some of these things that's in my sketchbook come to life. And it kind of just helps me keep developing my collections and what I think I want to do in this world. Also do work with Velcro as well. It's really fun too because I get to be talent sometimes for commercials, which is really fun. Now that's glamorous. You show up, they ask you what you want. You get a rider before, so I make sure Twizzlers are on set. Somebody's doing my makeup. I'm like, oh, I could get used to this, honey. Beyonce, girl, I get it. So yeah, And then the first time WM was on TV, I got to have work featured in Bel Air in season 1, and I also sent work in for season 2, which was really, really cool. Sometimes I will say this, I have a very bad habit of not giving myself props. I will literally walk in a room, chill, calm. Oh, my name's Whitney. And honestly, up until probably like 2021, I would not tell people that I was a fashion designer. They would have to kind of like beat it out of me, and I would finally be like, yeah, I make clothes, whatever. It's kind of a trip when I look at my CV and stuff. I'm like, dog, honestly, we're really balling out of control. Well, kind of still in control a little bit, but I've been able to do a lot of really cool stuff. So I kind of want to work on not necessarily not taking that for granted, but just kind of being a little bit more proud of myself. Also, it's been really cool. I've been able to be on TV. I love PBS. Who loves PBS? Okay, yes, fans. All right. Honestly, dream. I want a PBS show eventually. So if y'all see me, please watch. Get my ratings up. It's going to happen one day. So yeah, I get to work on a couple of PBS shows, Make 48 and My World 2. I get to be like an interviewer on My World 2 and a tool tech on Make 48, which is a competition show for inventors, which is really, really fun. And then too, yeah, like I said, so I like to be able to kind of see where Whitney Manney kind of fits in with as a fashion and textile designer in different worlds. So there's a local, there's a Kansas City-based, well, I don't know if you would call them a furniture company, but it's called City Girl Farms. It's a lady named Sally. She makes chicken footstools. And when I tell you this is such a specific thing, but when I tell you Sally and Carly, they are jamming them chicken footstools out. And when I tell you them things, they going. This was the time where this is the most, well, at that point, that was the most expensive artwork I had ever sold. Y'all see this big old chicken right here at the top, the big one? She went for $5,300 immediately. Amen. I know it. Yeah, that was a good time. Yeah, shout out to Sally and Carly. I appreciate them. But the thing is about collaborations like this, the cool thing is even at my lowest points, and even at my points where I felt like I didn't have no orders, I had huge creative block, heartbreak, whatever, I still was showing up in some capacity, whether that was on my Instagram, newsletters, whatever, in some kind of way. Get on live, just talk to people, post whatever's in my sketchbook at that day. Because I was consistently showing up in some capacity, people were paying attention. They were still paying attention. Even though it felt like, man, I'm not doing my best work right now, people were still paying attention and they reached out. So City Girl Farms reached out to me and they was just like, would you want to do a collab for some chicken footstools? And I said, sure, why not? And so that, in a way, it's like, okay, WM can do furniture. WM can be in your home besides a pillow. You know, I can be in your home and your closet. You can relax and look cute at the same time. So it was a really fun process. And the best way that I can describe what this was like, it was like making jackets for chickens. And so I really got to get back into my fabric manipulation bag. I hadn't done felting in a while since school. And so it's like airbrushing and felting and marbling and all this fun stuff. So this body of work was called The Flock That Raised Me. And each chicken is named after one of my aunties. The biggest chicken is named after my mama. The second chicken that's Geneva Jean. That's after both of my grandmamas. And then we had some extra stuff left over, and the third one is after my dad. But the other 6 are named after my aunties. So that was really fun. And that was like really nice to be able to have this personal work, because those are some people that are incredibly important to me. So I was gonna tell y'all, be nice to y'all's parents, okay? And your grandmamas and everybody else and your teachers, because when I tell you, if my parents did not just support me as much as they did growing up, oh my goodness gracious, I would not be here. And I appreciate them so much because they still, for birthdays and Christmas, they get me one of my big needs for studio every for a gift. So definitely, I still appreciate them to this day. And even my teachers, I had a teacher in elementary and middle school, Miss Hilvitz, who would let me stay in her room during lunch and still just like kind of create and take up space and let me do whatever I felt like, and that was so important. So definitely keep them close to your hearts. So yeah, also it's really cool too because I've been able to kind of pivot into wardrobe and costume design. I was talent in a commercial, and the production company called and was like, "Hey, would you be interested in designing costumes?" And I said, "Sure. Why not?" I'd say sure, why not a lot. I say yes to a lot of things, and I'm like, yeah, I can do it. And I'll get off the phone, and I'm immediately like, girl, you can't do this. Like, why would you agree to this? You have no idea how to do this. But I tell people yes, because if they believe in me, then shoot, I guess I can do it, child. So my first commercial job was for Wendy's, and they needed Star Trek inspired costume tops, and that was an intense job. I will say the production world is very, very intense. Okay, there we go. All right. Production world is very, very intense because like casting wasn't done until like 18 hours before the commercial, before we were supposed to be on set. So I didn't get to start sewing until 12 hours before. You're doing weird engineering stuff. Like we did these frosty hats to promote the strawberry frosty that Wendy's did. Let me tell you something. By the time them hats left my studio, I didn't want to hear the word frosty again. Okay, that was treacherous, but it was fun. It was cool because they did a whole TikTok campaign and they sent them to influencers, and you just like, that was just in my studio like a week ago. But that's been really fun too, to be on sets. I just did my first movie as a costume designer this summer, and I'm also, what am I doing now? Oh, I'm about to do my first plays. So going into theater. So in November, I'm doing Hip Hop Cinderella, and then I'm doing Hairspray in February. So that's been really, really fun. So I've been able to have wardrobe and costume experience on commercials, music videos, now theater, live TV, and movies. So yeah. Also get to do some fun stuff for other businesses, so mural work. I would love to do a couple of more murals, but this was a digital print one for an ice cream shop locally. Also kind of do, whenever people want like tie-dye merch, I like doing that too. I love dyeing fabric. This is actually my old studio, but this is just an example of my workspace. It's a crazy looking place, but it makes sense to me and I love it. It's a second home. Studio space is so important to me. First of all, I can't fit all that stuff in my house. And I know at one point, by the time I moved out of my parents' house, they were glad to see it go. My mom says she still finds sewing pins, though, around the house. I will say, I just wanted to add this slide in. It's really important, even when you get to a certain point, to still like strive for education and try to learn things outside of your set medium. So Aeromont is such a cool space. It's in Tennessee. It's like adult art summer camp. I love it. I love going there. And I took a metals class. And honestly, shout out to me because I'm terrified of open flames. But I did it. I used the torch. I came home with my eyebrows. That was the main thing I was worried about. But kind of trying to see like how can my aesthetic work within other mediums, and what would that look like? Metals is really, really cool. I wish I could have a setup to do it in my studio. It's just figuring out all the ventilation and stuff. Yeah, Nick Cave. Do y'all know who Nick Cave is? Nick Cave has a piece of my artwork. Ain't that crazy? I got to meet him last year. Yeah. So, and this kind of goes into me saying I'm really been getting into accessory design here lately. So this was a bag that I designed. We presented it to him as an award, but the idea of the bag is a picture frame And so it comes with 4 paintings, and you can change which painting you want on the bag. And so he carries it too. So it's kind of cool. Also, one of the highlights of my career is that I made it to the workroom of RuPaul's Drag Race. So it's kind of crazy because you're sitting there and it's like, I mean, it's not like I was on MTV, but I was on MTV. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you talking to a kid that grew up with TRL and 106 in Park, and I thought I was going to be on TRL. Like, so this was next level. And again, this was something that just came to me. Monica's manager just called and asked if I could do it. We had 13 days to do 2 costumes. And we didn't even have a real fitting. It was just prayers, hopes, and dreams. And when they said, well, we want you to do the entrance look, and y'all watched the show? Who watched the show? Okay, I'm a stan, okay? So I was freaking. I was on the phone trying to play it cool, like, yeah, sure, I can do it. And on the inside, I'm like, oh, my God, RuPaul's Drag Race. And Monica, oh, my gosh, stunning. Literally my favorite client. She's amazing. And this was so important because this was Monica's reintroduction to TV post transition, and it was really important because she was the first contestant to identify as trans on the show. And so this was such a pivotal, just a big moment for her. And I was just so thankful that her and her team just thought to have me a part of it. And so when she did her music video for Not a Soul Can Clock, I designed the hero look for it, and this was really, really fun. So this is a custom print of different clocks and stuff, and like this 3D like soft sculpture boa, the chain belt, the earrings. Yeah, that was cute. I gotta give myself snaps for that. So this year has been a crazy, crazy year. I worked with the Kansas City Royals to do a collaboration with them to promote opening day at the K for this past season. And to be able to work with like a sports team is really crazy. They gave me full permission to do whatever I felt like, which was really amazing and great. When corporations support artists like that. And that was the biggest job I have ever pitched for. And it was also very, very cool because I was able to hire 11 other women of incredibly diverse backgrounds to work with me on this project. So I had 2 people helping me sew, the photographers, hair and makeup, models. We all came together and made it happen, the embroiderer. So what I wanted to do with this project was bring the Royals into the world of WM and not just, throw some logos on some T-shirts and call it a day. So it was a challenge, and it was really fun. And I won a AIGA award for this project too, so that was pretty cool. Other than that, I'll just be at studio chilling. This is what's on my cutting table right now. That's my pup. That's my pup girl up there. That's Yaya. She has been employee of the month for the last 6 years. No competition, but that's pretty much that's what I do, y'all. So thanks for listening.